Anglo-Saxon NWG, bitch. All right. I want to talk about Toni Morrison as well. Where is this Toni Morrison? Can you believe this? We have Seamus, who's in the live chat now, and he had tweeted about this. He says, she says, whites are not human. You can't be any more anti-white than that. Very well said, my good brother. Let's pull this up. And let me bring this back. And he was retweeting Frank, who says, when James Watson, and this is the important point here, when James Watson said that Africans are less intelligent than European people, when he said this, he was called to strip. I don't know exactly what Frank was trying. He was stripped of his Nobel Prize. He was stripped of his Nobel Prize because he said, according to the data, the IQ of the average white person is higher than the IQ of the average black person. And you all are probably well aware, because of places like the American Renaissance and the like, who invest heavily in the idea that if you have all of the academic data and you bring forth your academic peacocks, they shimmer with their degrees before the public like scintillating gods descending from ivory towers, and maybe they have peculiar ways they speak like this when they talk to you, you little plebeians. You could not possibly know, but you have to be emaciated and weak. Maybe you have to, I can stand by my side. If I stand sideways, you will see how the academics look front view. And they're like, well, maybe I'm actually a little bit thicker than they are. But still, imagine very an emaciated man. They're like, I am emaciated and weak, and that means I'm very smart. I am small and weak and emaciated, and I have a peculiar way that I speak, and therefore I'm an academic. And you must believe what I say. And they've gone with this for many years, despite the fact that I've, pleaded with them, pleaded with these people. No, 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 no. We need normal white people to take up a morality that defeats the psychological warfare morality that undermined everything across. That's what we need. We don't need these wizened academicians to come forward and talk about all this data. But you probably know, because you've been browbeaten and bludgeoned to death with it, as I have been, that there's a bell curve on IQ testing, and that you have a broad middle, and that you have then an extreme to the right of it is the highest IQ, and to the left, and then they can compare these bell shapes, and then they can see, according to these graphs, as James Watson did, and look him up to find out how educated this guy is and how unmoved by passion, how moved solely by data this guy is he still alive? And so he merely took a look at this, and the data did not defend him, did it? The data did not protect him from the immoral imperative of anti-whiteism, the anti-white moral imperative. It did not protect him because facts and data don't matter. They simply do not matter. They are easily misrepresented, and they are easily challenged by other facts and data. And more importantly, morality always trumps facts and data. Always. It always trumps it. It always defeats it. But white people, they have this peculiar penchant to data, to objective things that are beyond us, ostensibly beyond us, and therefore are of a higher truth because they are not submitted to our subjectivity. And yet, I mean, it works fine when we're by ourselves, but not when we are with the rest of the world. So James Watson had his Nobel Prize stripped, unless somebody wants to correct me on that and say otherwise. But I remember the people who were saying that the typical, just like when the Ten Commandments were removed from the courthouse in Alabama, and the Christians were screaming in the yard of this building, put it back, put it back. They were on their knees. They were praying. And for some strange reason, God didn't help them. But put it back. And they were saying the same thing about James Watson. It's not fair. Put it back. Give him his award, his Nobel Prize back. Now, Toni Morrison, of course, is this black anti-white bitch. And she ends up saying here that white people are not human. And there are, of course, no call to strip her of her Nobel Prize or any of the other awards that she has won. Now, that is not a point, but that is where conservatives will stop. They will say, look at the hypocrisy there. Even explicit white sympathetics. That's where they stop. It's hypocrisy. They're not fair. Of course they are not fair. They're anti-white. So let me pull this up on the screen and we can see what this vile anti-white black bitch had to say about white people who are, they say, white people, not human. White Wolf says, I went to look at the firearms and gear. The Trump speech would have taken up 6 hours. Too crowded. Yeah, I bet. There's cool stuff, though, there, isn't it? Share screen. Here's your interview. No new. And why is this not big news? Why? It's because it's an anti-white position. It reveals how the anti-whites really feel. And they still have to propagandize the white race. That's where you can take heart. If they didn't have to propagandize us anymore, if they didn't have to continue to tell us that, well, you have to be white guilted and you have to feel white noir, you have to feel shame for the good of non-white people, for the good of the world, to make amends for how, if they didn't have to do that, they would tell you. They would be everywhere. They would be like, hallelujah, what she said. It's fantastic. But they know if you tell normal white people that white well-being isn't good, they're going to have a problem on their hands. They're going to have white people resisting, which is why you have, incidentally, which is why you have more white people able to do and say the wrong things on the internet, is because they are emboldened by white people in greater numbers who are using our concepts because we have seeded them and continue to seed them. So white people are able to give money to content creators, go to conferences, say things online that are detrimental to the well-being of white people, because they look out in the world and they're like, look at all these white people talking about anti-whiteism and anti-white. Well, now I feel so much more comfortable saying da-doos, it da-doos. And that's the only reason. If it weren't for white people who are now talking about, wait a second, it's not right to deny us well-being, these cranks would be as quiet as they've ever been. And all the more reason why you will see anti-white PSYOP operations pushing content creators and magnifying audience size for content creators that represent the villain in the fictional anti-white narrative. Because the more white people that say, wait, we should be able to have white well-being, the more dangerous that is for anti-whites and the rule by anti-whites and the ideology of anti-whiteism. So they're going to be pushing, moving forward every day, harder and harder. Who's they? The anti-whites are going to be pushing harder every day to get more and more white people playing the villain rather than just complaining about our victimization as a people. You mark my words. They desperately need the opposition to take the form of the villain in their narrative. They desperately need that.
You said an interesting thing recently. You said that, talking about whites, you said in the final analysis, they'll give me up. If
talking about whites, in the final analysis, you brilliant Nobel Prize winner. All of a sudden, I got a little bit of like Southern drawl there. I can't help myself. Ivan the Horrible is with us. He says, Ivan was meandering in Ivan's yard with no white guilt and saw a rabbit lounging in Ivan's potato garden. It showed no fear when Ivan approached, so Ivan loosed a spoon at it and it ran away. I saw a baby bunny the other day outside underneath the plant is called spirea, and the baby bunny could fit in the palm of my hand. Maybe I should tell some of the bunny stories at some point. Linda's here. Great to see you. Let's listen to what this vile anti-white bitch said about us.
The trucks pass and they have to make a choice. They'll put me on that truck.
Look at her. What a brilliant, just get already statues of her, paintings of her. What a lovely looking anti-white being this is. All over the West. All your white children are going to be taught to praise and worship this woman, this thing.
What did you mean?
I meant that in the final analysis, if they had to choose to be white or to be human.
To be white or to be human. So I'm not misstating. All of these people that are saying that she said whites are not human, we're obviously, this is not hyperbole, we're not exaggerating.
And I was the key. They might choose to be white.
They might choose to be white. This mentality, this from anti-whiteism, this dehumanizing Western kind, so that it is to be the personification of pure evil. That is what the anti-white narrative is, and that's why it has to be defeated. That's why you can't fight it within the narrative. It doesn't matter how many cranks you get together to say, it does. It doesn't matter. You're in that narrative, you will be destroyed. And every day, the possibility of surviving playing the villain goes down across the West. Every single day, the potential of surviving playing the villain in the anti-white narrative goes down because you have Western countries that are increasingly populated by other races of people. And you can look back to see how white people treated white people, especially in the United States, thanks to this selfish individualist mentality. Brutal. Well, these people coming in now, they are going to have no problem butchering the shit out of white people. No problem. Dehumanized devils. And especially if you take the form of the demon in their story.
For those reasons, being human is hard.
So you got white people need to choose to be human rather than white. And it's hard. So she's like sympathizing with us.
It's very hard. And I'm not so sure.
Look at this half-wit. Superciliously just pontificating to us, to the audience. Like, oh, white, it's so hard for you white people to be human, but you have to choose to be human and hate yourself and hate Western kind and white erase everything that is instinctual to you, including your own blood and flesh and soul. You have to do the right thing. Why don't you just give this bitch a robe and let her be supreme leader in the West? Sickening.
That white people in general would make that choice.
Because that is a powerful image that you evoke.
And look at this white female here. No sign of disgust on her face. No rage. Now, you've just dehumanized an entire group of people and said that if they are themselves, then they're not human. You know, this white bitch, this anti-white, white, vile bitch would lose her shit if you said that about any other race of people. If you were sitting there and you said to her, well, black people can choose to either be black or human, she would projectile vomit rage at you.
It is.
Instead, though, she holds this Toni Morrison up like she is this moral paragon, and rendering these deep thoughts. You get more deep thoughts out of Jack Handy. These deep thoughts that are just coming from her little head. Or maybe she's actually quite fat. It's a big fat head.
Really the sense of the possibility of absolute betrayal of you
Total betrayal.
because of your skin color.
Exactly.
That must be.
Linda is saying that's, is it Jana? Is the white woman's name?
Your skin color.
Exactly.
That must be
Okay, let's
a
go back.
powerful image that you evoke. It is.
It's a powerful image that you evoke. I don't move my head when I'm talking. And we just learned on Fox News that when a woman does not move her head when she's talking, that it means that the likelihood of her being psychotic is very high. It's a powerful image that you evoke.
Really the sense of the possibility of absolute betrayal of you
Total betrayal.
Yeah, the white people are betraying her because of the color of her skin. Now, not for her anti-whiteism. It's because of the color of her skin. You know, it's like that moment when you realize that your people are being judged on the content of their character. It's like that moment.
because of your skin color.
Exactly.
That must be
Exactly.
a
When we are speaking, when we are superciliously pontificating anti-whiteism.
No, it should be, instead of pontificating, it's pontificating. That's what it is.
When we are pontificating anti-whiteism, we have to have a blurry background and we have to say it in hushed tones. White people have to be exterminated. And if we say it like this, it's okay.
desperate view of black-white relations to live with.
Well, you have to be alert. You know you're in a war.
You're in a war. No, of course, wake your asses up. This is all fiction. This is all fiction. The white race, for generation after generation after generation. You don't know a white person who was alive when white people controlled our own destiny. For generations, our destiny has been in the hands of anti-whites. It doesn't matter how many white people are in a government when they're anti-white. So the destiny, the well-being of white people has been in the hands, the well-being or ill-being of anti-whites, white and non-white, for generation after generation after generation. And this is the fiction. This is the fiction, the anti-white narrative.
We are in a war for our black asses.
Give me a break.
I mean, without firepower or with firepower. But it is a kind of subtle war, and you can't be stupid about it.
So there you have it. You're not being stupid about it when you say that white people have a choice. They can either be white or human. That is the depth of anti-whiteism. This is the kind of thing that needs to be shared with our brothers and sisters, the vagues out there, along with a very healthy dose of lexical and dialectical power that we wield.